Did you hear about the guy who bought Dynamics instead of Salesforce?
No, Brian, what happened to him?
No, that's the joke. He bought Dynamics. Hi, I'm Brian, the Salesforce Wizard.
And I'm Mark, Salesforce Yoda.
Welcome to the Wizard News' WizardCast. This is a podcast on all things Salesforce, but more importantly, it's a podcast where we sound stupid.
It's educational and entertainment. It's edutainment.
Welcome to our 6th full episode of the WizardCast.
Brian, aren't you going to say that stupid joke that this is our 6th episode without Parker Harris?
Nope.
Why?
Because he did it for me.
Oh. Okay.
You're supposed to ask me my name, or no? Do I? Hi, what's your name?
No, you did.
Hi, state your name. Your name? No.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Charlie Isaacs. I'm the CTO for the Internet of Things at Salesforce, and we're about to see the greatest segment you've ever heard in your whole life.
Yo, Wiz.
Yo, Wiz!
Yeah!
Our question comes from Mike Gerholt through Twitter.
Wait, the Mike Gerholt?
Do you know another one?
I mean, the button-click admin, he's asking us a question?
It would appear so, yes.
It's a trap. It's gotta be. It smells too fishy.
Fish? Does anybody talk that way anymore? How about we just answer the question, Brian?
Fine, what's the question?
Well, it's more of a challenge.
I knew it was a trap!
Okay, Mike asks, URL hacks, pros/cons, go.
That's not really a question. Does it even have a question mark in there?
It does. Just start listing off the pros, okay?
How about we start with, what's a URL hack, Mark?
Well, okay, let's see. A URL hack is when you make a custom button, and on that custom button, you put in a URL that is something else in Salesforce. Like maybe you're going to put the button that is the edit page for creating a new opportunity. Or maybe you're going to call the URL that is used generally to write a new email. You can call those actual URLs, put them in the button so that when they click the button, it pulls up that URL. The hacky part about it is that you can actually put in variables to fill in the values of fields on the page. And you can do it ahead of time in the button, and you can merge in values from whatever record you just came from.
Or you could use a custom link, basically any place where you're directing the user to a URL, a web page. You know, some of the common things that people use URL hacks for are like pre-filling fields when you're creating a new record, or sometimes even updating a record, pre-selecting the record type, going through and sending an email by taking you to that send email page, but pre-selecting the template, who the recipient's going to be, what the related object is, all that wonderful stuff.
Now, it should be noted that this is a practice which works, but it is not officially supported by Salesforce. Which means that if you try to get any sort of support from them or find any documentation on the subject,
it's not there.
Yeah, they will tell you this is not supported. Thank you and have a nice day, and we'll help you no further.
The other thing is because it's not an officially supported feature, it can go away someday. Salesforce is basically saying we are not guaranteeing that this functionality will work in the future in a future update. We know that Salesforce has been doing things to replace URL hack functionality, and we know that they don't like URL hack functionality, and doing certain things like removing JavaScript from homepage components, looking at what we're seeing from Lightning that has been released so far. For example, you can't deep link into a process with Lightning, right? That shows the start of removing the capability of doing URL hacks.
This is absolutely true. So the long and short of it is that they could, at any point, shut it off. They probably are not going to do it the next release, but they could potentially. It might not be this release. It might be next release. It might be the release after that. It might be 2 years from now. But we know they want to do it, and they want to do it sooner rather than later. We just don't know when.
So let's talk about why people use URL hacks.
Pros,
I know I use
right?
them. Right. Yeah. You can do a lot of things with a URL hack that you can't do with, say, publisher actions. For example, I can create a link or a button that will take a user to a report, and it will automatically change what the filters are of that report. So I can have essentially a dynamic report that gets filtered whenever a user clicks on a link. So other things that you can use it for is doing that pre-population of a record, pre-selecting the record type, and making the interface more familiar, because it looks exactly the same as the standard Salesforce interface.
Exactly. So you could actually have a button that is custom made and replace your, let's say, new case button on the account page. And you could replace it with another button that says new case, but it actually is pre-populated to pick a specific record type, so that they always go to that specific record type when they pick case. You can also use this to have a custom send mail e-button. Brian did mention this before. That does allow you to pre-select a template so that the email template is already there when they click the button. You can even put in the destination. Like, let's say that you have a contact lookup field or an email field or something on the record that you're clicking the email button from. You would actually have the ability to draw in that information and put it in the to field.
It's also fairly easy because you don't really have to know code. There's tons of blogs that are out there that walk you through how to do that, including some of my blogs. I've done a couple examples of URL hacks. So it's easy, right? It's fairly simple for people to get into, even those who really aren't familiar with how URL works in general. Those are all pros.
Those are the pros. And the cons are basically that it's not supported and that it could go away anytime.
Well, and it doesn't work with, say, Salesforce 1.
That's true. Doesn't work. Doesn't play nice with a lot of the new technologies that they're coming up with and are releasing.
And there's some things that you can do to replace it. For example, I would encourage people that if you were using a URL hack to pre-fill fields in a record that's what you want someone to create, look at replacing that with a publisher action.
Yep, that would work. Or is in certain circumstances where you need a lot more functionality than a publisher action can give you, you could replace it with a flow. I mean, it's not going to have the same layout. You're going to be stuck kind of in that flow appearance, but you would still have the ability to go get records, get information, and cobble them together and put them in an interface that actually lets them do what you need them to do.
Now, there are a couple things that I don't think there are a good replacement for. And the two that come to my mind is the report filtering hack.
Yes.
Which I've always loved. And the second one is that capability to basically take you to the said email page and pre-select an email template and so forth.
Yes, those are big ones. So and you're missing another really, really big one, Brian. I can't believe you, of all people, are completely forgetting this one.
Which one's that?
The ability to call a flow.
I'm not sure if I would call that a URL hack.
But it is. It is a URL hack. You are actually making a button with a URL in it, and you are passing in data into variables into that URL in order to make it call the flow.
I wonder, though, if Salesforce considers that a URL hack, because that's in their official documentation.
It is. So it's gray area. It's gray area. But if you think about the infrastructure, the type of work that Salesforce has to process on their end when you have a button that calls a flow, and the type of work that Salesforce has to process on their end when they call a button, which is a very well-defined URL hack, it's very similar technology. It's very similar what the processing is doing on the back end. And if they really want to get rid of URL hacks, it's because they want to either better or replace that technology. Therefore, I think they're going to have to replace flows with that as well. Well,
there's another con for using URL hacks, Mark.
What's that?
It makes Shannon Hale cry.
It does.
And for those of you who don't know who Shannon Hale is, and you totally should, she's the platform product manager at Salesforce.com. Basically, the declarative guru. We all love Shannon. Every admin should love Shannon.
Exactly.
So, Shannon, I am so sorry in the past for all the times I've made you cry.
Every time you make a URL hack, she doesn't even have to know that you're doing it, but a tear will just fall down her face. She doesn't know why it's happening, except she knows someone somewhere has made the URL hack.
And I'm pretty sure most of the time she goes, "Wizard," because it was probably me.
Your name said in hushed tones.
Do you have anything else that we can talk about URL hacks?
Generally speaking, if you can avoid doing a URL hack, do. If you can't avoid it, if you need them, there's lots of information out on the web. I highly recommend going to findsf.info. It is a custom search engine. If you haven't heard me speak about it before, I'm kind of surprised because I talk about it all the time. It's a search engine which is custom designed to search only Salesforce information, Salesforce docs, blogs, boards. Mm-hmm. And that you can find a ton of information just by searching for URL hack on findsf.info.
It's almost as good as just simply going to thewizardnews.com.
Well, Wizard News is it's great and all. It's great and all, but there's a lot of stuff out there.
Fine, I'll remove the reference link to salesforceyoto.com.
Oh.
Okay, I think it's time for a new segment, Wiz Questions.
Are we asking people questions about their whiz, or are we asking questions to someone named Wiz? What do you... I don't...
I was going to name this Quick Questions or Community Pulse, but that just seems kind of flat and boring and dull.
I suppose we could just call this the segment which shall not be named and have our listeners choose a title for us.
I like how you think. So this segment, which cannot be named...
Yes.
Is where Mark and I ask a series of people the same question, and we catalog their responses.
Okay. All right. Sounds reasonable. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start at the very beginning, and so did Mark.
Yeah.
We wanted to find out how people first got into Salesforce. How were they introduced to the platform? What made them stay? So we decided to ask the question.
So I have to ask, what was your first time like? With Salesforce.
Scary beyond belief.
That happens to a lot of us.
Yes. No, because I inherited an org that had never been administered, was the victim of some data dumps out of mainframe systems.
Oh, I hate when they do that to you.
That we're pretty sure 25% of the contact base had passed away.
So did you just not know where to click, what to start first? I mean, were you kind of lost in the landscape of things?
Yes, I was. Very much so.
A lot of weeds.
Lot of weeds. And so first step was to figure out how much of a behemoth am I up against. And from the data side, there was a lot of deduping via access and 15 instances of a contact record.
That's very good to keep your data garden trimmed.
Yes. And then looking at my opportunity object of 300 fields. That was also 350 validation rules because we were in professional at the time.
Did you really have to play around with the fields at all?
It's been 4.5 years, and I'm still trying to play with them and figure it out and how to trim it down.
Well, I can tell you, after quite a few years of my own experience, I still haven't got it figured out.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Mark, I'm really surprised you had that much difficulty with data dumps.
Well, sometimes people just have trouble with that. It's a normal bodily function to have trouble with your fingers clicking like that.
Yeah, I suppose you could just simply accidentally click the wrong button and you end up with a dump of data you don't know what to do with.
Exactly, and no one can be blamed for that.
Yeah. We feel for you, though, buddy. We feel for you.
Yeah.
We'll be sharing a new answer during each episode, so keep listening for more of this segment that shall not be named.
If you do have a segment idea or feedback or jokes or video, send it to WizardCast at thewizardnews.com or go to thewizardnews.com and click Contact WizardCast.
All complaints should be forwarded to Mark.
Hi. Now it's time for our Salesforce video of the undetermined amount of time until the next one.
What do we got this time, Mark?
Well, we've got a Dreamforce video from 2014.
Ooh, is that the one where the presenters put on the robes and they act all funny?
Brian, we already pimped our own session out.
Oh. So what is it?
Well, it's all about being a single admin. It's called, appropriately, How to Be a Successful Solo Salesforce Admin.
Oh, is that like a dating service type thing for Salesforce admins?
No, it's actually about how you can, if you are a solo admin, someone who is the only admin at your company, some thoughts, philosophies, tricks, and ways to approach your job that actually will make it a lot easier for you to keep that position and to be happy in it. So no, not a dating service type thing.
Oh. Are you a single admin?
I'm not. I have a team of like 8 people. It gets really complex.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I really never liked having to deal with the whole team of admins like that. I've always been a single admin myself.
It can be very rewarding because you are essentially, if you have trouble with something, you have a team of people to bounce something off of. And if you have a very, very complex org, well, you can't just go out into the community and ask them how your org has configured some things, because they won't know what your org is like. So it can be quite nice, especially with the larger orgs, and especially with the larger orgs that have a lot of users. There's no way you can possibly support that amount. But being a solo admin is definitely good too.
Yeah, I've always been a single admin at the companies I've administered, and I can see where you can think it's a little bit on the lonely side on when things get complicated. You don't have too many places to go to talk.
Was there a joke we were doing with this, or?
No, there wasn't a joke. I was being serious.
Okay, I thought so. This just got awkward.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Well, we gotten some feedback from our listeners.
Really? Well, what did your mom have to say this time?
No, Mark. We actually have listeners. I know it's tough to believe. I thought we'll share some of the feedback occasionally in a news segment.
Wait. 2 new segments in one episode? You've crossed the line. You're mad with power, man.
Okay. Anyways, our news segment is listener mailbag.
Bag? Do we actually have an actual bag?
It's figurative, Mark. The feedback comes from Twitter, email, thewizardnews.com, and the success community. I'm just calling it the listener mailbag as a nice title.
But bag? You're going to pronounce it bag?
Bag.
Bag.
Bog.
Bag.
Bag. Anyways.
What's the feedback?
Our first listener feedback is from Twitter, and it's from Dale Ziegler. He says, tweets, WizardCast, listen to it. Good people, more gooder humor. Gooder. Thanks, Dale, for those kind lies.
Yes, and in no way was this compliment solicited by the fact that we've highlighted his Dreamforce session. Yeah. We have another one. Oh, dear universe, save us from #WizardCast. From Pete Fife, also via Twitter. Thank you.
You think that's a compliment?
Sure, we'll go with that. Alicia, Alicia Dvorkina? Do you know her? I don't know. Posted on thewizardnews.com. Hey guys, so excited you are doing podcast now, and not just podcast, WizardCast. Now, once a week, my ride home would be so much more fun. Listening to your published episodes now, and looking forward to more, many more.
Sorry, Alicia, that one, we're not publishing weekly anymore, and 2, we can't pronounce your last name.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's Mark's fault. Not really, because I gave him that line. But we may try to do weekly in the future, but Mark and I's scheduling is just so crazy that we decided to go every other week.
You know, there's that whole like being a Salesforce admin thing, so finding spare time is kind of a thing.
Yeah, and having families, and you might have actually been able to hear my kids screaming from the room next door.
Yeah, it's possible. I didn't hear any, but maybe it slipped past our sensors. We do keep running out of jokes and Whiz questions and Salesforce video submissions.
So if you do have a joke, question, Salesforce video submissions, please email us at wizardcast@thewizardnews.com, or just go to thewizardnews.com and click Contact WizardCast.
We'll also accept tweets to Quangarific or _Ross__C, and make sure you use the hashtag WizardCast.
WizardCast is produced by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, directed by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, technical administration by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, script writing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, audio editing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, website maintenance by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, frozen food fan fiction by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, and our intern this episode was Alicia DeFurkina.
Is that how you say it?
Don't forget to subscribe to the WizardCast and receive our next episode auto-magically. Once again, I'm Brian.
And I'm Mark.
Thanks for listening.
I was trying to keep a flow moving, and
I know.
You were more on top of it than I thought you were.
Our first listener feedback is... Damn it, Mark. Compliment me in such a sidelong way.